Hello, Train My Traffic people. Molly here. Hope you guys are having an awesome week so far. We pre-recorded this episode because I am actually in New York shooting a course with Ezra all about work-life balance, which you guys will get free access to when that's ready. So we went ahead and pre-recorded, and I just want to put this out there that this is absolutely my favorite session in Train My Traffic Person. It might not be everybody else's, but I think you guys will be able to tell over probably the next 2 hours. This is generally a pretty long session because it's such an important topic. You guys will be able to tell how enthusiastic I am, but this is all about avatars and targeting, as you guys know. And first, I wanted to introduce my friend Russ Henneberry. So Russ is here on the line. How you doing, buddy?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Me too, me too. So Russ and I met, we both worked at Digital Marketer. We met 5 or 6 years ago. Russ is one of my best friends in the whole world, an amazing online business owner, amazing digital marketer. But I feel one of your strong suits here, Russ, or one of your strongest skills in your arsenal is when it comes to avatars and truly understanding who your prospects are, who your customers are. And that information is so valuable, especially when it comes to Facebook and Instagram advertising. So I'm gonna open with a bit of an intro here to set the stage. Then Russ is gonna hop in and go deep into avatars. Even if you feel like avatars is a basic marketing concept that you already have a hold on, please pay attention, guys. I would say that I mean, this is, if not the most important topic when it comes to the success of your advertising. And there's a lot deeper than you can go, even if you already feel like you have avatars in your business. And Russ does such a good job teaching this, giving you fill in the blank formulas to really pull it out of you or show you how to research who you're actually trying to reach and sell your products or services to. So Russ, thanks for being willing to be here. Everybody actually knows you already. I introduced you in the first session because they're watching us build ad campaigns for your newsletter, The Click. So just want you to know that everybody already knows who Russ is. And I set the stage, showed them a great picture of you. And yeah, I think we're ready to rock if you are, Russ.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So if you don't mind to mute yourself, Russ, just because it's coming through a little bit, and then I'll throw you the controls when this part is done. So
got it.
Let's get started, y'all. We are now in week 4 of this training. The first week was just about getting started, thinking like a media buyer, really teaching you the concept of a traffic system. Week 2, we started building the assets that you need to launch and scale a profitable ad campaign or multiple profitable ad campaigns by teaching you about different acquisition funnels and front-end offers that work for particular business types and making sure that you're selecting one that works best for your business or giving you new ideas on offers that might help you scale. The next week, we dove into the world of Facebook advertising and really understanding how you're going to structure your campaigns, which objective you should use, what your budget should be, how many ad sets, how many ads, and really starting to build the framework and the structure of this house that is a profitable traffic system. So in true TMTP form, since this class each week builds on the next step of this process is avatars and targeting. And this is so important because you can build the best campaign in the world with an amazing offer, beautiful ad creative, wonderful copy that's super compelling. But if you put it in front of the wrong audience, it will fail. And this is a part of this entire process that I'm teaching you guys that I see marketers screw up on so often because they think that they truly know their avatar, or they're just not willing to put a lot of time into the research to figure out where these people are hanging out on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, and target them in a way that most advertisers aren't. And because of that, they have this beautiful ad campaign, but it doesn't convert because it's not being shown to the right people, or our targeting is too broad, or we don't really understand why it's so essential to think about and dive deep into your avatars, especially when advertising on social platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So targeting and avatars are not only the key to initial success and proof of concept in terms of, can I sell this product or service online, but they are truly the key to scale. And I know there's a large portion of you that are here to get proof of concept and to really get started in this. And there's a portion of you guys who are here to scale. And this is applicable to both of you because it's necessary to get things going in the beginning. But the introduction of new avatars and the ability to go deeper and find more targeting options and more ways to reach more of your market, that is where true scale comes from on ad platforms. So I'm really excited for today's session. And I want to point out that this is especially important with an ad platform like Facebook. Let's compare it to example, Google search, right? And maybe my commode broke today and I hop onto Google and I'm searching for a plumber to come and fix this commode, this toilet, right? That I am raising my hand and telling Google and telling whichever businesses who are bidding on those keywords that I have this specific problem and that their product or service can help me, right? That's a no-brainer. It's not really about going out and finding people through Google search. It's about understanding what they're searching that might show that they are someone that we can serve. Facebook is much different. Facebook is more like a billboard, right? And people aren't searching Facebook with intent, right? We are showing up as advertisers in people's news feeds, people who have never heard of us before. And because of that, we need to really relate to their lives, what's going on in their lives, the conversation that's going on in their brain currently. We need to be able to speak to that to ensure that we are relatable, to ensure that they're actually going to stop scrolling and not continue to scroll like they just did the 5 ads above. And so on a platform like Facebook, because this is a billboard and because, yes, we know that people are interested in certain things, like we definitely have ways to target them. But it's so important, especially on a platform like Facebook, to really identify who you are trying to reach, because the better you understand that person, the more that your ad is going to relate to them, and the more likely they are to stop in the newsfeed or stop on that story and actually read your ad and possibly click and buy your product or service. So unfortunately, currently, most advertisers are still screaming in the newsfeed about their product or service to a large group of deaf ears. They haven't taken the time to really put a lot of thought into their avatars or targeting, and therefore they have a fairly broad message that they're screaming to a large group of people about that don't have a lot in common. And this is a big reason that a lot of ads are failing. And this is a simple marketing concept, but it's really about that market product fit. So what are you selling and who are you selling it to, right? And how can we use ad copy, creative, and build our targeting to make sure that we're showing up in front of the right people with the right message to really convince them that our product or service can help change their life. That's what this is about. But before we dive into targeting, interest targeting, lookalike targeting, my process for all of that, we have a step before that, and it's all about understanding avatars. Avatars are the key to product market fit. It's the key to understanding the complexity that comes with the different markets that you're trying to reach to sell your product or service. We also need to adjust our idea of what an avatar is. So a lot of times, when I'm speaking or with a group of students, I will ask the question, who are your avatars or who is your market? And usually the first person will raise their hand and they will say, oh, my avatar is men over the age of 40. My avatar is people who recently retired. And what's interesting is that I still hear from you guys a lot of language around how this person looks. So usually their gender and then their age. It's usually a lot of demographic information that we're usually using to describe these people. And a reason for that is that's just how human nature is. That's, kind of how we're taught to describe one another, whether that's good or bad, I'm not quite sure. But it's also rooted in old school advertising, where we used to only be able to, okay, I'm selling a product for women, let's put an ad in this women's magazine, or I'm selling a product or service in this local area, so this billboard makes sense. Because the internet hadn't been invented, and because we didn't have all of this data and information that platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Google had, that's really the only way that we had to describe our avatars or our target market, mostly just by demographics. So I highly, highly encourage you guys throughout this training and the rest of TMTP and your marketing career in general, please go deeper into who these people are, because the deeper you go, the more informed you are going to be in finding targeting options where you might be able to reach these people on platforms like Facebook and Instagram that your competition isn't finding, because they just haven't gone that deep into who this person is and what they're thinking about. So, just another example, a lot of people say, okay, I'm serving women over the age of 40. It's just a bit broad. Or I'm serving people that just retired. It's just a bit broad. And I challenge you guys to go deeper. And another point that I want to make is you never know what this person is actually going to look like. So Russ, this is an example from a brand that we worked on at while we were at Digital Marketer, Survival Life, who sells to preppers and people who think the world's going to end. And I know you probably remember this, when the media buyer at the time for that brand, they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on advertising, and they were always targeting men over the age of 50, white men, because generally that is who buys those types of products. Well, one day she accidentally forgot to identify the age and gender, and she was like, Molly, oh my goodness, my lowest cost per acquisition is actually coming from women in their 30s. Who would have thought? And the reason for this is that she was thinking more about these people more from the standpoint of their race and their age versus things that would identify them as part of this market. Like they like canned goods, they want to protect their family. I'm sure there are lots of other identifiers of this person. They probably own guns or weapons. I mean, really going deeper into who this person is versus them just being a white male over the age of 30. Like you never really know what this person's going to look like.
And remember, Molly, we found out that a lot of people on the Survival Life list had joined because of all the DIY stuff, right? Wow. Like how to make your own candles and how to, do all that stuff, which I think was also, attracting that female demographic.
Absolutely. And I think the point that Russ and I are trying to make right now, and he's going to go a lot deeper into this, is just the fact that because we have so much data, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of interests inside of Facebook that we can target that are based off of actions that people have taken on Facebook and all of their platforms and the World Wide Web that are so much further unique identifiers of them possibly being a good candidate to buy our product or service than just their age or gender. So just the point I'm making, I think I'm beating a dead horse here, is just really encouraging you guys to go deeper. I think this is my top secret sauce as a media buyer, is my ability to just put myself in my avatar shoes and spend time really finding out where they hang out. And usually that has nothing to do with gender or age. And these are some awesome examples you actually sent me, Russ. This is a granny on a Harley. You know, like she might be in the market to buy a motorcycle or to buy motorcycle gear, but you could have missed her in your targeting because you assume that this person looks like a man in, you know, a midlife man with a bunch of tattoos wearing leather. But, you know, look, here Granny is on this motorbike. Same thing. Here's a kid who is crocheting. Doesn't he have a world record, Russ? I think you told me.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember what the record is.
Yeah.
But remember last time we taught this live, somebody told us that's not crocheting, isn't it? Or something like that.
Or it's some type of crocheting, I think. But, you know,
specific kind.
This isn't the human that you imagine in your mind when you are selling crocheting or quilting or anything in this market. And these examples are silly, but it's just further proving our point. I want you guys to remove that from your brain and start thinking a bit deeper, because Facebook has so much data and most of it is interest-based. So why are avatars important, especially with Facebook advertising? And I've said this before, but we really need that ability to develop certain buying profiles of potential avatars in order to do our targeting research. So when we go into the part of this training where I ask you to dive deep and research your avatars to find the best interests on Facebook to target, if you don't know who that avatar is, you're going to have trouble doing targeting research. You're not going to find many interests. Your interests are going to be very broad, and therefore they're not going to work very well. So this is very important for our cold traffic campaigns and any type of new acquisition of customers and leads that you are performing. So depending on your business type, and specifically the business that you've decided to focus on over the next few months here in TMTP, you may need 1 to 2 avatars in your business, and we're going to ask you to create them. Or you may eventually require 4+ avatars. And here's why. There are 2 very different types of businesses, and I need you to really pay attention here and start to identify which one of these you think you are working with. And if you don't know, ask me in the group. But there are 2 very different types of businesses, and depending on which one you're working with, that is going to tell you kind of how you're going to move forward with this whole avatar and targeting thing. The first type of business is a market-centric business. So market-centric businesses can have as little as 1 avatar, maybe 2, but market-centric businesses pretty much have one general market or one general group or avatar of person that they are serving. And the reason for this is the reason that we only need 1 avatar is because the business was built around this person, built around serving this group of people. So we already know this avatar's profile, right? It makes it easy for us to research and dig into that market because we really only have one type of person that we're serving. So an example of this is the Christian docuseries that I've worked with that I told you guys about. It's called Christ Revealed. This is definitely a market-centric business. It is serving Christians and really no one else. So when I think about this business, my avatar really is a Christian. Could I create some sub-avatars? Possibly, but just to keep things easy, when I'm creating my avatar and when I'm doing my target research, it's focused all around this one market, this one topic, which is Christianity. This is very much a market-centric business. The avatar is Christians. Same thing, Russ, with your business, Modern Publisher. Modern Publisher is an info business that serves info marketers, right? You help people who are selling information sell more courses, right? Get better results. You're not helping e-commerce businesses. You're not helping local businesses. You are helping info business owners. Like, this is very much a market-centric business. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And people in module 2, Russ, they saw the behind the scenes of your first launch that you did for
Yeah.
Modern Publisher. So
Mm-hmm.
you guys have already looked into this, and that's why the targeting, creating those targeting options for that launch, Russ, were really easy for both of us,
Yep.
because there really was one avatar we were going after, and you and I are that avatar.
Yeah, we are that person.
So that was easy, and we were grateful for that. I mean, same thing with soccer.com. I mean, they might sell products for other sports, but you are coming to soccer.com because you play soccer, or you're buying something for someone who does play soccer, right? Like, their avatar is pretty much soccer players. Football players, American football, are not visiting soccer.com. Tennis players are probably not visiting soccer.com. We pretty much have one avatar. This is a market-centric business that is serving one group of people. If you are a local business, or if you are servicing a local business, you are absolutely a market-centric business. So let's use this spa, Studio G, which is on Main Street in Telluride, Colorado. They are a market-centric business. And you might be thinking, as a local business, you've got to get really in depth with your avatars for targeting. And maybe for a spa, you would want to target people who have a lot of disposable income, or people that love skincare. But when it comes to targeting on Facebook for local businesses, that usually makes your audience sizes too small, especially with how Facebook operates today. So any local business that's just servicing like within 30 miles, or just a city or a county, you guys are absolutely a market-centric business. Your avatar is people who live around your business. You're not necessarily needing to dive into the different types of people, because when it comes to targeting on Facebook, you just don't have to go that in depth, because your audience sizes are already going to be so small. So we'll dive into that more later. But if you are servicing a local business, you definitely are a market-centric business, and your avatar is pretty much people that live in that local area, unless it's a large city like New York or LA. And then, of course, we can further refine with more interest. But most local businesses are market-centric businesses. So you pretty much know if you're a market-centric business. If you don't, again, let me know in the group, tell me your situation, and I'll help you figure it out. But the second type here is a product-centric business. And when I realized that there were product-centric businesses out there and market-centric businesses out there, this was a huge key to my success on the Facebook platform, really the last few years, is that when I started working with product-centric businesses, from a targeting standpoint, I was treating them like a market-centric business, and it really wasn't working. And when I realized in my brain, I came up with these terms. By the way, guys, call them whatever you want. But when I had this realization that there were these two different types of businesses when it comes to advertising on these social platforms, this really, really helped me with product-centric businesses, especially e-commerce companies. So product-centric businesses require more than one avatar. And if you are a product-centric business, I want you to start with 2 avatars. If you're market-centric, start with 1. You're lucky, you have less work. If you're product-centric, I want you to start with 2, because I don't want you to test just one in case one or the other fails. You would get a false positive or a false negative there. But product-centric businesses require up to, you could have tons of different avatars depending on the product you're selling and who it applies to. But the key to product-centric businesses is understanding that because of the nature of what you're selling, you are going to need to position this product in very different ways depending on the avatar that you're speaking to, in order to make it relevant to their life and therefore succeed with Facebook and Instagram. So the first time I realized this was a few years ago with my client, Panda Planner. So they sell a planner. Obviously, there's not a lot that sets this apart from a normal planner, other than there is some cool productivity and time management built into this. But when I took this client on, the mistake I made was treating it like a market centric business. So when I went to figure out the targeting on Facebook, I was like, okay, this is a notebook. I'm sure people that like other notebook companies or people that are engaged with maybe companies that produce high end note cards and other items like this, they would be interested in this planner. And that's really what I thought. And I couldn't be further from the truth there. And it absolutely failed. And this is when I realized, wow, there are product centric businesses, and Panda Planner is one of them. It is a product. The business is based around the product or the product line, and it really needs to be positioned to certain avatars in order to succeed. There's not one clear group of people this is serving. Like, this planner wasn't built to just serve people that like planners. There's so much more here. This is a product-centric business. So when I started to define my avatars, it allowed me to create more specific messaging, creatives, and specifically targeting to actually show up in front of a group of people and tell them why this planner might be a good idea for them. Other than best planner in the world, it's great quality. I needed to know who I was speaking to so I could reach them through targeting, but also so I could speak to the specific and benefits that that product might have for them. So the avatars that I decided to go with were moms, anxiety-ridden humans, people dealing with a lot of stress, entrepreneurs, and architects, because I noticed on Amazon that a few architects had left reviews. Again, you guys only need to decide on 2 right now, but based off of who their current customer base is, these were the avatars that I decided to test. And this is what really allowed me to scale this brand and have success with Facebook and Instagram advertising, because I knew how to directly speak to the mom. I knew how to directly find and speak to the anxiety-ridden human, the entrepreneur, the architect, and it just made all of this work in such a better way and was so much more scalable. So you can see here, this is an ad that's speaking to the mom avatar. And she's talking about how her mom life is more organized with Panda Planner. She's got one place to keep doctor's appointments, school activities, trips, cleaning around the house. It helps keep her accountable. She has a place to keep up with meal planning. She loves this planner. How much more specific and effective is this than just putting out to the entire world, hey, we have this planner. We're speaking to a specific person here, and I'm able to target places where I know moms are actually hanging out. Same thing here with the stressed, anxiety-ridden human. I'm able to speak to people who are stuck in a job they hate, mid-divorce, finance is a mess, looking for a semblance of control. She got a new job, paid off debt. And all of this is, not all of it, but a lot of this was because of Panda Planner. So because I was able to establish these avatars, guys, this was the key to success here for this product-centric business. And same thing for my friend Roxelle. She has a brand called Fused Hawaii. She sells bathing suits, definitely a product-centric business, but it's not like she's gonna hop on Facebook and just target other swimsuit brands. To generate success with paid advertising, she first had to establish some avatars. So a few of her avatars: number 1, moms. She is a mom, and she speaks a lot about body image after becoming a mom, and that her swimsuits are really built to make moms feel good and feel comfortable. So that is a wonderful avatar for her. Also surfers. She lives in Hawaii. Her bathing suits are also built to keep everything in and safe when you're surfing. So that's a completely different group of people that she is able to speak to with her ads and to make her product more relevant to them. Also body image enthusiasts. Again, she really, all of her marketing and the community she's built is about feeling good in the skin you're in, especially when it comes to bathing suits. So that is a market she is able to speak to also. And same thing here, she was in a mastermind that I was at. We became friends, and she was struggling because she's like, I'm selling swimsuits. Who do I target? How does this work? And once we figured out she was a product centric business and we dove into a few of these avatars, she was able to get so much deeper with her messaging, her targeting. And that's really when her business, I wouldn't say it started, it had taken off before then outside of paid traffic channels, but this is really what allowed her to generate momentum when it came to the online world. And then another example here of a product-centric business. This is a student who is selling, this was from 2 TMTP classes ago. His name is Alex, and he sells bow ties. And he comes to me, Molly, I sell these homemade bow ties. My mom makes them, but who do I target on Facebook? I mean, do I target just other fashion brands that are maybe selling bow ties? And again, it's, hey, Alex, this is a product centric business. We've got to create some avatars. And the avatars that he came up with, educators, so teachers that wear bow ties, that works well for him. Preppy dressers, so people that kind of already dress in that Southern preppy way, that are more likely to wear bow ties, that follow certain brands and influencers and et cetera online. High-end fashion enthusiasts, so people that really appreciate nice clothing, and they like that they would be more likely to respond to the fact that this is handmade exactly for them. And so just because he was able to identify these avatars, he was able to have so much more success than just getting on the platform and targeting other brands or companies that might also be making bow ties. Because he established these avatars, he's actually able to speak to a group of people that will make them stop in their news feed, and he's making that connection as to how his product can change their life, or why they might want to buy his product or service, just because he realized he was a product-centric business and he had this need to establish the avatars before he dove into the targeting. So how do you determine the avatars for your business? You guys might be wondering. And how do you build out an avatar once you have an idea of who they are? And this is really the work that comes before we dive into the targeting side of things on Facebook, which we'll get to here in a bit. But this is really when I turn things over to you, Mr. Ross.
Oh
And
my
I
God,
love this picture of you from
that
TNC
picture.
a few years ago. But just to recap really quick, guys, I'm just here to set the stage. I want you to understand the difference between a product-centric business and a market-centric business. Figure out which one you are first. And then based off of that, that will tell you how many avatars you need to create right off the bat. For market-centric, it's 1. For product-centric, it's 2. And then the next step is to follow Russ through the process that he is about to show you, because this is what's going to really allow you to go deeper into understanding who these humans are, so that your Facebook your Facebook targeting will be so much better and so much more specific. So Russ, buddy, thank you so much for doing this. We're ready for you to share your screen, and
Believe it.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, that image has been photoshopped more than any image on the planet.
I love it.
By Mr. John Grimshaw, if he's listening ever to this.
Yeah,
and among other people.
Russ with his hands up. We put him in church, I think at a zoo. Yeah, that'll never, you'll never live that down, Russ.
All righty, so let's talk a little customer personas, y'all. I call it the Swiss Army knife of marketing. And the reason that I call it that is because, you know, this is great for paid traffic to understand your market and who the persona is, like really get into the head of the person. But it's really the Swiss Army knife. I mean, it's used in, you know, when we create blog content. If you're gonna, you know, what should I create a podcast episode about? It's like, go back to your persona and figure out who this person is, what sort of pain points and challenges and values and all the things. And that's what we're going to be going through today. We're going to be going through how to put this thing together, like literally and tactically put it together using the customer persona canvas. And so we're going to start up here at the top, where we're going to start fleshing out this persona. And the first thing
and you
that
guys,
we like to do,
really quick, sorry, Russ, this is a worksheet you guys should totally download. Russ, I think you have a link. We'll make sure that it's in the members area below this. Since this is recorded, we'll just make sure it's already here in the members area. But this is something, guys, please print it out. Take this seriously. Please fill this sheet out for every one of your avatars, because it's going to set you up for success.
Yeah, and I know I've been through this program with you, and I know that you keep returning back to the idea of, okay, so what did your persona? I mean, it really is amazing that anybody goes out there and tries to market today without doing something like this, whether it's this kind of a canvas or, there's a million of them out there, but and a million different processes and ways to go through it. This happens to be ours, but there's a lot of different ways of going about this. And this is a really good one. So this works for us. So we're going to start by naming the person, because, when we start to flesh out who this person is. And the way I name the customer persona is I use some formulas. So the first formula is first name and then the segment descriptor. So earlier, Molly talked about that Christian business. So she might have Katie the Christian or whatever, right? So, and it sounds a little corny and goofy, but do that. Go ahead and be corny and goofy, because A, it's more fun to be corny and goofy, but B, it describes and it helps you to understand, like, who is this person? Like when we were at Digital Marketer, Molly, it was Agency Eric, and we had like 4 or 5 different groups of people that we would talk about, and it creates, if you have people you're working with, whoa. Hang on just a second, Molly. My earphones just went bonkers on me.
No worries. You okay?
Yeah, man, they just got really weird. Is everything sounding okay?
Yeah, everything sounds great.
Okay. So, what you want to do is use this as part of the lexicon in your office or with your team on Slack or whatever it is. It's like, hey, we need to create an ad for, Nathan the newbie, or Ellen the editor, or Mary the mid-level manager, or whatever it is. You're going to want to start using these names, and then people just start to instantly know, like, okay, that's who we're talking about here. The second formula is just the opposite. It's like the segment descriptor and then the first name. So it's newbie Nathan, editor Ellen, manager Mary. So do us a favor and indulge us and see whether you like creating these kind of goofy names. And so that's the first step is, and every time you see one of these red slides,
you can pause this video and actually do it.
And
it seems silly, guys, to name them, but it really helps, especially if you're working with other people. Like Russ, we had 4 or 5 avatars at Digital Marketer that we named, and we just use that terminology. So it seems silly, but it really helps to put a name to it. So, Alex with the bow tie business, when he's trying to reach the educators, maybe it's Eddie the educator or Tim the teacher. Right. And it's kind of fun. So anytime, since this is recorded, go ahead and stop the video when you guys see these red slides and actually fill this out.
Yep. And if you thought that part was goofy, let's go on to the next one.
And also, Russ, thank you. Like, guys, we should be so grateful for these fill in the blank formulas that Russ is giving us, because usually a topic like this is taught in such a big picture way. Yeah. Like Russ is giving us fill in the blanks to help us better understand this person. So I think that's one of the most exciting aspects about this, Russ.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's fill in the blank easy. So same here. I'm going to give you a formula here to quote your customer, which sounds goofy again, but earlier Molly said something really, really interesting to me that I ended up writing down, is that, Facebook advertising, these people are not going into Facebook with intent, right? They're really going in there for a lot of times for a distraction or whatever, just to hang out type thing. It's not like Google search ads where somebody's going out there with intent. But again, this is about really starting to understand the whole picture of who this exact person is, editor Ellen. Who is she? And one of the best ways to do that is to figure out what she would say. What would she say out loud? So we're here on the avatar worksheet
right now in this quote box. So what we want to do is write in there something that she would say out loud. And the way I like to think about this is, I want you to picture yourself sitting outside on a beautiful day, having lunch with me and Molly. Okay, and we just got
and that's fun.
And we just got our iced tea, and your or maybe a glass of rosé or something like that to have more fun. But I want you to picture yourself sitting outside, and somebody over at the next table next to you says something really loud that makes you jump up from your seat and say, hey, I can fix that problem. Right? Like, I can fix that problem with my product, my service, whatever it is you're marketing, right? So you immediately know when this person says this at the next table, you look over and you say, I can fix that, right? And so what would that person say out loud that would cause you to turn your head and say, I can help you with that. I have a product that helps that. I have a service that helps that. I have a not-for-profit that helps with that. So let's get some formulas going here. So the first one is that they might be saying really loud. Now, I always say, like, it has to have an exclamation point on the end of it. Like, what they said has to have an exclamation point on the end of it. And it needs to be something like, I wish I could blank, right? So say something I wish they could get done, or I wish I didn't or did have, right? Something, right? Some desired result, some desired outcome, right? So examples, I wish I could make enough money to get my own apartment. So if you're in personal finance, you'd be like, aha, I know how you can save enough to get your own apartment. I wish I could get rid of this last 5 pounds I gained when I was pregnant. If you're in fitness, you might say, I got exactly the routine for you. I wish I didn't have this lazy employee on my team. If you're somebody that sells leadership and management consulting, but you guys get the picture, what would that person say out loud, nice and loud?
Something that's coming to mind, we have a student here that sells these bouncy balls that you sit on, and it can be positioned towards people that sit at desk. I can't remember the other avatar, and one of them is pregnant women. So it's like something that they would say is, I'm so uncomfortable, I can't wait for this baby to be born. You know, like they're expressing that they're pregnant, they're expressing that they have discomfort, and now that person's raising their hand. We're able to learn more about them. You know, just to throw another example.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what this is about, marketing, that is, it is a big picture, is about really getting to know this person, the language that they use to describe the pain, the desire, the challenge, the values they have, right? And started to use that language, especially in your advertising, right? Where, you know, you can see how Molly showed that, again, that example about the Christian thing. You know, she wrote that ad very differently than she would probably write that Panda Planner ad, because she's trying to speak she's speaking to very specific pain points, desires. So we're going to cover all of that today. But it starts here, and it might seem a little goofy because the second formula here is fear. So they might say, I'm worried that this, right? That might be what they said at the next table. So I'm worried I've waited too long to start saving for retirement. I'm worried I'm going to be embarrassed at the pool this summer. I'm worried that I'll hire the wrong person. So that's another possible quote that you could put in there for your avatar.
Yeah, what are they fearful of? And a lot of this research isn't just going to benefit you guys when it comes to targeting, but also hooks and copy and creative and everything that's coming in the next few weeks. So this isn't just about targeting. This is going to give you a lot to work with here. And I just love these formulas, Ross.
I mean, just like an opening to an ad or email could be their voice. Like, I don't trust blank group, person, idea, thing, because... So this is more of an us versus them. And Molly covers this later, I believe, when you talk about this concept of us versus them. Super powerful marketing concept. And this can help you write, you know, like Molly said, when you go to write that ad, that us versus them ad, this is the kind of quote you want to pull back out. Like, I don't trust the government because
Yeah.
whatever, they're always taking my money, or I hate this group or person or idea or thing, and some reason for that hatred, you know? So,
Yeah. And this won't apply to everybody's avatar, but some of your avatars are more fired up and come together more in opposition of others and other groups of people.
Right.
And for some of you, this is going to be a really powerful quote. For some of you, this won't matter as much.
Yeah. Okay. So quote your customer persona, pause the video if you want to, and write out your quote. And then let's jump on to this next one, which is demographics. Now, Molly covered this earlier, and we're here. Now, what I always say is that if there's some reason that you need to include demographics, it's going to be pretty obvious to you, I think, right? So don't overthink this one. Just like Molly said, if there's some reason that those matter, it's obvious. So like this blog right here, right? You know, they're clearly targeting a young demographic. But otherwise, you can leave this section blank pretty much, right? You know, if you want to flesh it out because you want to be able to see this person, that's what I do. I go ahead and flesh out the demographics. What I don't do is what I also do though is I make sure that I'm really careful about where I use that type of demographic.
Totally.
You know,
and it's okay to go ahead and put what you think it is into the sheet, because when you're imagining that person sitting in front of you to write copy, it's good to know. But I just don't like you guys to use it from a targeting standpoint, especially when you're getting started, unless, of course, it totally pertains to your business. Like, for example, Boom says we are for women over the age of 50. Obviously, we're only going to target women over the age of 50, but most of your businesses are actually have nothing to do with demographics, and you're leaving out a huge part of your market because you think that they're coming into play somehow. So I think it's good to fill out just to kind of know, so you can visualize that person. But unless it's, you know, the gender and age is really specific to your business, I would steer clear.
Yeah, I mean, these images like Molly showed you earlier, that is
I love them.
Now, I talk about this concept a lot in business. And it comes up here. You know, one of the things I want you to do is absolutely, you know, do things like pause the video but don't sweat over this one section or any one section of anything you do.
Such good advice, Russ.
You know, carefully consider some things, both directions or whatever. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to throw a dart a lot of times, and just go ahead and pick something.
Especially if you're just getting started.
If you're at the starter with a new client or your new business or whatever it is, you're going to have to throw a dart so that you can start getting some data back, and then come back and revisit things. Like these avatars change over time. So throughout this entire training, there'll be times where you'll go, I just don't know. Like, I don't know one way or the other. So move on, right? Move on, throw a dart and move on. Like, just pick something and go with it. Because if you have no reason to, and some of you need this talk and others of you don't. Like, some of you are like, ooh, I just shoot from the hip. Right? It's like, okay, for you need to slow down, brother.
Yeah.
And do a little thinking. But for those of you that get stuck on stuff, and I think that's more of us, it's like, you know, I'm that way sometimes. And I have to remind myself, dude, just throw a dart and move forward. All right. So same with the professional stuff, right? A lot of it anyways, the title, the company size, you just don't know who's, you know, if you're B2B, you can fill out this section. And if you have some reason that the professional characteristic matters, it's going to be obvious to you, right? Like if you're selling HR software, your target becomes super, super clear, and it becomes important to fill out this part of the demographic of your persona. But if it's not super obvious, then I would, again, the same deal, like be careful doing things like, and I know you've advised me this too, Molly, even when I'm advertising, is like, try not to do things like target people by title or unless there's some really good reason for it.
Yeah, it just makes the audience sizes too small. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Again, unless for some reason you need to talk to that person because they have a certain title, but
Yeah.
that does not pertain to most of your businesses.
Right. What is pretty cool though to think about when it comes to your professional characteristics, these first three, the title, the number of employees, all the size of the business, they're one thing, but what's really cool to think about when it comes to selling B2B is what kinds of tools, apps, software, things that the persona uses to do their job. So like right now I'm setting up a whole new set of ads for that's B2B. And a lot of the interest targeting that I'm using is tools and software that these people use in their job. And that seems to work really, really well for me. And so I think it's helpful to stop and do some thinking about this. If you're B2B, and if you're B2C, you can even sometimes figure out like, oh yeah, there's tools, software, apps, and stuff like that that are specific to this avatar. Thoughts on that, Malzing?
No, absolutely. Even outside of B2B, I mean, I'm thinking about like a client that I have that speaks to people that meditate, and there are apps like Calm and, different tools that they're using that is identifying them as this avatar. So, I mean, we're going to go way deeper on this here when Russ is finished with the avatar stuff in terms of like the information sources. And I know you're going to get to that here in a second, Russ. But yeah, I think anything that these people are doing or using that really identifies them as a part of this market, it's important to understand that, and it's important to go down the rabbit hole there. And if you don't know, you can Google, right? Best apps for meditation, top apps, here
oh no, I have it right here. So like, finding the tools, software, and apps, just, I put this in, it's pretty obvious. Most of us know to use Google, but best apps for human resource managers, best tools for graphic designers. I mean, go out there and just let the Google tell you what, there'll be top 100 lists and whatever of all the tools that people that meditate use, or people that are, and just go in there and dump all those into your, into your targeting stuff, but also into your persona. Because if you can, you want to go and start doing a lot of the things that these people do. Like if you're trying to reach people that meditate and you download the Calm app or something like that, play around with it, right? And use it so that you start to put yourself into the shoes of this person. So yeah, I mean, it's just an example, 52 best mobile apps for human resource managers. Like these would be good things
guys,
to put into your persona.
Sometimes you are your avatar and this is just a no-brainer. And sometimes you know nothing about this market and you're going to have to spend a lot more time researching. And I think, Russ, we've been in both positions together where we know the avatars, so we don't even need to Google anything or look anywhere. We can just fill it out. There's sometimes where we have no idea. Like, I'm not a mom, but I target that avatar a lot, and I've learned a lot about, where moms hang out. So the level of research you need to do also has to do with how well, if you are this person or if you know this person.
Yep. All right. So complete those professional traits. Like I said, don't get too hung up on any one step here. But now let's start looking at the personal traits of this person. Like, who is this human being? And we start thinking about their interests and their hobbies. So here are a bunch of examples of things that people are interested in. Certainly not a complete list, but it'll get you started in terms of like, what is this person into? Finance, beauty, food, home and garden, pets, outdoors. So, what does this person do? And Molly, we talk about this a lot, something that we call the "but no one else would" trick. And so it's the but no one else would trick is something Molly and I came up with years ago, where we would say, what is something that this person that we're trying to reach would do or say or read or watch or whatever, but really no one else would,
Yeah.
Right.
So Russ, the example we love to use is golf.
Yeah.
So let's say we're wanting to reach golfers. The big mistake that people make is they're like, oh, let's target ESPN, or, let's go after people that like sports. And it's like, no. What are the things, like, where are people who like golf hanging out that nobody else is, right? Like, it's only golfers.
Right.
And so that's more like the Golf Network or mid-level golfers that no one else would know about. But it's definitely not Tiger Woods. He's an international celebrity for many things that have nothing to do with golf. So that's what helps you find the specificity here, where you're only reaching your target market and not wasting your money on a bunch of unqualified people, which also, when you're reaching a bunch of unqualified people, they're not reacting with your ads, and therefore your ads aren't performing as well. So that "but no one else would" trick really helps you further narrow these down to make sure they're really specific to your avatar.
Yeah, so going deeper, and if you can find like a large volume of people that passes the "but no one else would" trick, that's gold right there. Like, you're like, oh my God, like, look at this. Like, so somebody might be interested in outdoors. That's a pretty broad category, but what if they're, what if you dig down, you actually say like, well, wait a minute, they're actually rock climbers, right? And then you might even get deeper than that and start to say, these people are like rock climbers, but they're actually into bouldering, which is a very specific kind of rock climbing, right? And so it's like, if you can figure out like these people, and then you go out there and you find something like a magazine for people that do bouldering, and you say, and you find that that's an interest in Facebook, or you find that there's a large community around that. Now you've got something, because it's like, oh my God, or there's a conference around it, or there's a guru or a book or a blog or whatever, where these people are gathering, but really no one else. If you're in this community, it's because you're into this thing, and whatever you're advertising solves that problem, right? Yeah. Or solves a specific problem for that person. So it's a game, really. I mean, the more niche you go, the smaller the audience, but the more relevant everything's going to be to them. And the trick is, "but no one else would" trick. I never say to myself like it has to completely pass that test, but the more it can pass that test, the better, right? Like Molly said, if I'm trying to reach golfers and I just target people that like ESPN, boy, that I really missed there, right? I needed to go deeper than that for sure. And the more true the statement of people that like golf who would be interested in X, but really no one else would. The more true that statement is, the better off you are in terms of building out your persona and really getting specific. Because if you just put ESPN on here for Gary the golfer, it's like, well, yeah, Gary the golfer's into ESPN, but so is anybody
my dad who likes college basketball. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So another great bit of information, a place to think, is brands. Like, what brands do people, are they interacting with? This is something that tends to, just like software and apps, and things like hobbies, you tend to leave fingerprints all over the web of things like the apps and tools you use, the interests that you have, the brands that you love. They tend to come out in your behavior, and therefore, we're able to target it a lot of times. So how do you figure out what brands they would love if you have no idea who this avatar is? Well, if you figured out their interests, which you did in the last step, you're going to connect those interests to brands. So if I'm interested in outdoors and rock climbing, well, okay, I go out there on Google and I say, what are the top rock climbing brands? And the Google comes back with Arc'teryx, right? And it's like, okay, that goes into my persona. That goes into my, sort of my, big picture of who this person is that they would wear this brand of clothing or buy this brand of backpacks, right? And so you could connect your interests to brands. So if they're into wearable technology, of course, you're going to end up landing on things like Fitbit and, whoever else has cool wearable tech. Show dogs, you might tie that all the way back to it's not really a brand, but it's a type of dog, right? That's a very popular show dog. So the last one inside of the personal traits is their values. And I know, Molly, you're pretty passionate about.
Yeah, Russ, this
a
is
lot of
my
times.
favorite one. Like, I
Mhm.
love how you teach this. And I think of anything on this sheet that's most important, it is this, because I'm going to go deeper into the info sources. But if you guys understand this part, I really believe you'll be able to resonate with your avatar.
Yeah, I mean, this comes out in a lot of things, most notably, again, this is the Swiss Army knife of marketing, Molly. So it comes out everywhere in the way, the language that you use, the way your copy reads. There's so much that comes out by understanding the values of a person. And so here's a list of values to get you started. Again, not an exhaustive list, but things like adventure, citizenship, growth, humor. What is it? Again, try to run the but no one else would test on it. Because if it's like, well, these people are interested in wealth, but so are a whole lot of other groups of people, right? Try to get more specific, right? Like
Totally.
taking one of these and drilling down a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, two examples really quick was the body image example from the bathing suit company that I showed you guys, or even the fact that Boom talks about being pro-age, and they, they're going against, hey, the whole market's telling you that wrinkles are bad and that it needs to be wrinkle free. We're actually pro-age. We're not going to tell you that. We're going to celebrate that. Those are two perfect examples of connecting someone on a values level, right? And if you can connect with your potential customer on a level that is their values, I mean, that's at the root of who someone is. Their likelihood to engage with you as a brand just skyrocketed. So that's really why this one is my most, in my opinion, the most important.
Yep. And so as I move along here, this next section, I want you to apply really what I'm going to teach in this next section to all of this stuff, because I'm going to show you how to spy on people. Essentially, it's like, sounds kind of weird, but how do you go out and research this information? Because here's one that I believe is really a linchpin of any customer persona worksheet, is to get clear on goals and challenges. So Molly's going to teach you a hook later on about pain and benefit. Like identify the pain, talk about the benefit, introduce your product, right? Really, really simple formula that marketers have used forever. And when you get clear on goals and challenges and what is the pain point here that this person has, you really have something, So we're down here in the goals and challenges section. So there's 3 ways to find these goals and challenges. And really the ways I'm going to show you also are good for identifying values and personal traits and really anything else, because you're going to be kind of, especially when we talk about the spying section here. So the first one is you just ask yourself. Molly's mentioned a couple of times, a lot of times you are the persona. A lot of times we build a business because we want to solve our own problem, right? And if that's the case, you are the persona. You need to sit down and reflect on, what are the real goals and challenges here? Like, what are the pain points that I've experienced? And that's a pretty easy way to do it. But you can also ask members of a group. I used to go to lots of things called meetups when I was just getting started in business. And I would go to these business meetups because I was doing freelance marketing for people and they were hiring me to do their marketing. And I would just listen to them talk about what their problems were at these lunches and stuff. And I was just, silently taking notes. I mean, it wasn't like I was some creepy guy in the background. I was like, I was eating with them and I was friends with them, but I was very keen. To, when they would start talking about something they were struggling with, to open my ears and start to, almost record like, okay, like I see what this person's challenge is, right? Because I'm just sitting with business owners that are potential customers of mine. And so all of that stuff, like going out and talking to people, calling people, like Molly called me one time because she was building something around bloggers, and she knows I'm a blogger. So she's like, what's the problems that you run into? What are the tools you use? What are the, and she just started essentially interviewing me, and people are happy to do that. Right.
Yeah.
There's
I mean, I
everybody's
call my
favorite
mom all
subject.
the time, right? For Boom
Yeah.
even. I was doing interest
Yeah.
research for them last week and called my mom. There's no shame in asking.
Yep. So go out there and get out there and talk to people that are in that market. It sounds really, really simple, but so few people do it. I have this picture of my video guy here in my office because I really don't know why. I guess because I'm his customer.
Yeah.
He's a freelancer, but
yeah, he could ask you questions.
Yeah, he asks me questions, but ask your customers as well. Like, why did you buy my product?
Mm-hmm.
What sort of value did you get out of buying my product?
Yeah. What was life like before? What's it like now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't know the answers to these questions, ask someone who is this market, if you can get a hold of them.
All right. So SPY. This is my favorite one. Okay. So SPY is fun because we don't have to go out and talk to people here. We're going to go out to Amazon. All right.
Research.
So Amazon is a treasure trove of customer feedback, or what we used to call when I was in the corporate world, we call it voice of the customer. Okay, so we want to see the voice of the customer, and it's really easy to do. So what you do is you go out to Amazon, no matter what problem you solve, right? There's going to be likely a book that solves that problem too.
Yeah, or at least speaks to your market in some way.
Yeah, if it's going to speak to your market, but try to find a book with lots of reviews. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. In fact, you want kind of a balance where you've got a lot of people saying that the book was terrible and a lot of people saying the book was great, because you want to read all of that. Look at this. So if I'm selling digital photography gear or training, or I am whatever, I'm trying to reach digital photographers, especially in this case, amateur photographers. I want to go read as many of these reviews as I can and start. What I do is I just copy and paste things into a document, like stuff like I've highlighted here. So you read these reviews. This is a 5-star review on this book. And you start to hear their language, right? Great resource for self-taught photographer, helped me develop confidence. Okay, so if this helped him develop confidence, what do we know was a challenge? Confidence, right? Confidence in his technique. We know that was a challenge. We know that's a goal for him to develop confidence in his technique. And I'm telling you, when I pulled this screenshot, this was like the first review I looked at. That's how, you'll find just tons.
So much information.
Yeah, it's not like I dug around for 6 hours and finally found some guy that's willing to tell me all of his problems. People just talk about this stuff.
Yeah. And this is just a book, right? This isn't about the book. It's the fact that this book has attracted a concentration of people in this market who in the reviews are discussing their pain points and what they're looking for, or what they're thinking. And that is such solid research, Russ.
Look at this. I'm a gearhead prone to over purchasing. That's a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also something that we can go back to our interests and hobbies. Like this person collects tech, right? Is that something that is sort of a but no one else would kind of thing that you want in your avatar? Average people may obtain high quality photographic results. That's an outcome, right? High quality photographic results, easy to understand language was something that that person wanted. So there's tons of stuff in here. This is a review of my book, I think. Let's see. Yeah. So I do a lot of training for new social media managers. That's good to know. Like, oh, cool. Like that's something this person does. So I have a newsletter right now that people reply to all the time. They reply to things, and it's the voice of the customer. And I read every single one of those replies for this exact same reason, because they'll tell me what they like, what they don't like, what kind of problem I solved for them today, what kind of problem I caused for them today, or whatever. But, hearing voice of the customer is really important, and it's super easy because Amazon has amassed so many reviews in there,
and Russ,
people just love it.
And it doesn't even have to be a book. It could be equipment, anything. It could be a fishing rod. If you're trying to reach fishermen, go check out all the fishing products, and let's look at what these people are saying. This can also be done in forums where your market congregates, but if you aren't this avatar and you don't have the opportunity to speak to them, we've got the World Wide Web. There's so much information on Amazon, and definitely through Google searches and forums where you can really understand their pain points and the voice of the customer. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much here, because like this statement right here, self-taught photographer. Maybe if I'm looking at this, I'm saying, maybe there's two avatars here. Maybe there's the self-taught photographer and the classically trained photographer, and those should be two different personas that I create. And so you go out and print out another persona document, and so you have Sally the self-taught, and you have Clayton the classically trained photographer. I just totally pulled that out. So,
I love it.
But there's so much in here that literally dedicating a half day or something to crawling through reviews on Amazon will surface so much copy and so many hooks and so many, even new products to create, new ad angles to take. So it's just a lot here. You can also go and click on that look inside and see. You don't even have to buy the book. You just click look inside. You want to look at the table of contents and see what kinds of pain points and challenges and different things that this book is solving, right? So you can see here like night photography, right? So that might be something that you want to put in there because you could create a podcast episode about it, or you could create a new product, or you could create a new ad angle, or whatever it is. But reading the table of contents of books that are targeted at your ideal persona will surface a lot of challenges and pain points and other information too.
Totally.
So there, yeah. Okay. So last one is dig a little bit deeper. And I love this trick too. Go back to the quotes that we talked about, these formulas that we had, and add the words "so that" to the end of it. The "so that" trick is one of my favorite tricks in copywriting, because what it does is it takes us from feature to benefit. Okay, so it takes us and makes us make a left turn, one more turn, one more dig, one layer deeper than where you had. So if it was, I wish I could make enough money to get my own apartment.
Yeah, what's the real reason? And this is what I mean by digging deeper. I'm going to tell you guys to do this a lot with your targeting copy creative. This is it. Dig deeper into this person's psyche and why they're really taking this action. The true reason below the surface.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a reason they don't want to talk about it, and you're going to, but you still want to know what it is, right? You still want to know
absolutely
what's really driving this behavior, and you do that by just adding the word "so that" at the end of it. Sometimes you got to do it twice, 3 times to finally get to the bottom of what's really happening. So if I'm sitting there saying, like, exclaiming at the table next to, I wish I could have enough money to get my own apartment so that I could stop being embarrassed about living with my parents. That's really the issue here, right? Like, it's not like that bad. Like, it's kind of cool. I don't have to pay rent, but people keep making fun of me because I still live with my parents and I'm, 45 years old. Well, it's that layer deeper that you can sometimes, and Molly, like, I don't want to get into writing copy here, but like, you can take even a deep, dark secret type pain point like this, and if you use a story of someone else that has this problem,
it's not as direct
in your copy, it doesn't attack them, right? It's a story that they can resonate with. Like they're like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah, and you guys will see a lot of examples of that.
Yeah. And I used a really good ad to launch one of my information products that did just this. It poked and prodded on a very sensitive sort of pain point that was a couple of so that's deep, and but it did it in a way that it was a story, so that I didn't offend them as maybe not as much. I wish I could get rid of this last 5 pounds I gained, so I could look great at the pool. Like, that's really the thing here, right? It's like, I'm not, or how about, I wish I'd have this lazy employee on my team. What's the real reason? You add the so that, and it's like, so that my manager will respect me as a leader. These become stronger goals and challenges than, okay, the person wants to have A players on their team. It's like, okay, why? Like, what's the real reason?
Absolutely.
Is it so they can make more money? They can get promoted? Is it because this employee makes them look bad to their boss? Like, what's the real reason here, right? And dig a little bit deeper to start getting to the core goal and the core challenge. Same with the fear. Why are they worried about that? I'm worried I have to wait too long because my friends seem to be way ahead of me. That's the deep, dark secret. And it always comes back to those core emotions like greed and fear and jealousy and the things that we don't like to talk about at parties. But knowing what those motives are is really key to being a really great marketer. I'm worried I'm going to be embarrassed because, I've been on and off this low carb diet all winter, right? And it's kind of, not working. I keep going, up and down. I wrote that one because that was me like 2 years ago when I kept going on and off keto diet. And I was like up 10 pounds, down 10 pounds. I'm worried I'll hire the wrong person because it will make me look like an inept leader. So, I don't trust the government. Why? And what's the real issue here? This one, I would even go another so that, so, all right. So complete the goals and challenges section and take that one as seriously as you possibly can. And I know Molly's going to get into that right side and has like a whole other type of activity for you guys there. So
yeah.
Stop here, right?
Yeah, Russ, this is amazing. And all of the information, like that right side that you guys see of this worksheet, that's what I'm going to dive in with some even more research because this right side of the worksheet is what pertains mostly to your Facebook targeting. Not that all of this isn't hugely important and will inform your campaign moving forward, but the right side of this sheet most directly relates to Facebook targeting. And so I'll take it over from here, Russ, and go deeper there. But thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you for letting us use the click as an example throughout this class. So we'll actually be showing these folks who you decided to target in your new campaigns here at the end of this video, just to show some practical application. And I just wanted to say thank you because I think this is such an important exercise for everyone and you are the best to teach it. So if anybody has questions, I'm sure Russ would be happy to answer in the group. Just tag Russ Hinneberry. Otherwise, Russ, thanks so much, buddy.
This was fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks, guys. All right. Okay, guys, so now it's time to talk about how this translates to Facebook targeting. And as most of you know, this is probably one of my favorite topics to discuss. Please pay close attention because I really feel that if you are willing to put the time and effort into this three-part strategy that I'm about to teach you, you can and will succeed with Facebook advertising. And the reason for this is that most advertisers out in the auction today are not willing or don't
maybe don't know what I'm about to share with you here, and strategies for really digging a lot deeper to not only ensure that you are finding the most avid part of your market, people who are actually most likely to buy your product or service, but also that you are using targeting that your competition is most likely not. So if you are willing to follow this three-part system that I use for Facebook targeting, and you're willing to put the time and effort into it, along with really going deep with your avatars and everything that Russ just taught, I guarantee you that your campaigns will have more success. And a big reason for that is that not many other advertisers are going to be using the same targeting options that you're going to be able to use, because you're going to do the research. And because of that, you guys understand how the auction works. Your traffic should be cheaper, your reach should be higher, and you should be able to generate more results out of your campaigns. So first off, I want to explain that there are two types of targeting on Facebook, and the way that I see it. I created these names. You won't find them inside of Facebook documentation, but in my mind, there are really two different ways that we're targeting on Facebook. The first is more interest-based, and this is what we're going to use to cold traffic when we are setting up campaigns and running ads to people who have never heard of us before. And interest-based is us using the data that Facebook has collected on all of these end users in order to find people that we feel are our avatar, that we feel are most likely to buy from us. The second type of targeting is intent-based, and this really is more retargeting. So someone has shown intent, maybe they have, they've interacted with your post on Facebook, or they visited your website, or they are on your email list. There are some cold traffic options that fall more into the intent-based targeting type, but most intent-based really falls into retargeting, and someone would need to actually first take an action and show intent with your brand, have some sort of engagement with your brand. And then intent-based targeting is simply you following up with them based off of that action. Interest-based are people who have never engaged with your brand before, but Facebook has data on them, right? Every time we log into Facebook, every click, every scroll, every action that we take within Facebook's platform and all of the products that they own, that is another data point for Facebook that is giving them information that is then passed to advertisers so that we can reach the most relevant audiences. So when you're thinking about targeting on Facebook, it's really helpful to kind of split them into these two categories. Am I going more after cold traffic and interest-based, or am I more in a retargeting phase and I'm targeting people based off of their actions, based off of their intent and the interactions that they've had with my brand? So let's dive a little bit into interest-based audiences and really what does cold traffic targeting look like on Facebook? And there are a few different options inside of Ads Manager at the ad set level when you are looking to reach cold traffic. And the first and the most important, and the one that I'm going to recommend that you guys use the most, and you'll see lots of examples of this, is interest-based targeting. And this can be found in the detailed targeting box. So I'm actually going to open Ads Manager here. We're back at the ad set level like I showed you last Thursday. I'm here in this audience section, and you can see that there is this detailed targeting box here. And when I'm speaking of interests, you can see interests listed right here. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of interests available to us to target inside of this detailed targeting box. Most people think that the only targeting options are these demographic targeting options here, these behavior targeting options here, or even just these random interests that Facebook has listed inside of these categories. Unless there is something in demographics or behaviors that is just so dead on for the avatar that you're trying to reach. So maybe, for example, you are selling gifts for anniversaries, right? For wedding anniversaries. Then you might want to use the demographics under anniversaries here. Or under behaviors, you might for some reason really want to reach expats. And this might make sense for you. Unless you have an avatar that is just so specific to something that you would find in one of these drop downs here, please don't use these guys. And the reason that I don't recommend using any of these is because these are readily available here in the platform, right? Any advertiser can go in, click these open, and most advertisers are using some form of these audiences that you find here under this browse section. And therefore, they're very competitive, right? And lots of people are using them. They're also not very specific. So I don't recommend that we use any of these targeting options under this browse section unless something is just a complete no-brainer, right? Like for example, if you really need to target new parents. So, it's worth scrolling through these if you're interested just to see. But unless you have a very special use case here, please don't use these. What I want you to use are the hundreds of thousands or millions of interests that are here, but actually aren't listed. There is not one place to go to find all of these interests. There's not one place where they are documented. And that is why this research process is so important, because you can literally type any word or phrase or keyword into this box, and there is a possibility that there is an interest that we can target. And because there's no list or documentation of these, it's most likely that your competition has not done this research and has not thought to type in this particular keyword. And that's why I want you guys to stick to this interest-based targeting that is not listed under this browse tab when we are building our cold traffic campaigns. So just to show you guys how this works, I can think of any random word. For some reason, I just thought of Snoop Dogg for some reason. So we could see if Snoop Dogg is an interest, and hilariously enough, he is. You can see 35 million people like Snoop Dogg. You can also see that sometimes there are random variations of that interest for some reason, where the spelling's a bit different. These interests are aggregated from Facebook pages, from comments that people are leaving on Facebook, from posts that they're liking, from things that they're typing about inside of Messenger and Instagram. So, like I said, you can type in a keyword and you never know what you're gonna get, right? We even have Snoopy as an interest. Snoopy Pop, not sure exactly what that is. Snoopy in Woodstock. So, you can pretty much type any word into here and see if there is possibly an interest, which is really exciting, but also a bit overwhelming. And it's why we need a research step here and a process to make sure that you guys are finding the best interest for your particular campaign and the avatar that you are trying to reach. But if you've never played with this before, go into this detailed targeting section, guys, and just start typing in things. It is so interesting. My dog's sitting over here, so let's see if Chihuahua is an interest. Yes, of course, they're Chihuahua dog. Chihuahua just as a word, famous Chihuahua, Chihuahua puppy. Chihuahuas are awesome. This isn't a word that I've ever typed in to this detailed targeting section before, and I'm glad I did, because this is another example of just how many random interests are here inside of Facebook that no one even knows are there. And it's our job to go find them. So the main type of targeting that we are going to focus on when it comes to cold traffic are these interests that do not live under that browse tab. As I told you guys, there are the demographic and behavioral targeting that are under that browse tab. And if you want to use them, fine. Again, only in special circumstances. Otherwise, please don't use them. They will be too expensive. You probably won't get much reach. They're just very, very competitive. And Facebook is collecting most of the demographic and behavioral data from third-party data sources, which means that those third-party data sources don't have that specific information on every Facebook user. So a lot of times those audience sizes can be really small, although they look kind of attractive to use. So please, please focus on interest targeting. There is also another type of cold traffic targeting called lookalike audiences, and these can be effective if you have existing data. So lookalike audiences can be created off of your email list, off of people who interacted with your Facebook page, your buyers, people who visited your website. Lookalike audience is pretty self-explanatory in the name. Essentially, you give Facebook a data source and you tell Facebook, hey, I want you to create an audience of people that look most like this particular data source. And there are different percentages of that you can move up from 1 to 10% that make these audience sizes larger for scale. Now, I do use lookalike audiences sometimes, and you guys will see that in a few of these examples today, but I do not recommend you in any way relying on lookalike audiences in your business. And the reason for that is over the past year or so, Facebook has started to more and more restrict the data that they're actually feeding into the lookalike audience. And I'm seeing across the board that lookalike audiences just aren't as powerful or aren't working as well as they used to. So if you already have lookalike audiences working in your business, awesome, keep using them. If this is interesting to you, I'm going to go a bit deeper in a bit on lookalike audiences, but I really don't recommend hugely relying on them in my cold traffic campaigns. So in my cold traffic campaigns, lookalike audiences might be just one ad set that I'm targeting, whereas all of the other ad sets, are a mix of different interest targeting. Something else to note about lookalike audiences is they are just simply not as scalable as interests. Again, there are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of interests on the Facebook ad platform, and it is so much easier to scale by going to find more interests than it is on relying on larger lookalike audiences that you may be able to create. There's just not as much scale with lookalike as there is interest, and I want you guys to be set up for success right off the bat. So when it comes to cold traffic, guys, these are really the 4 different types of interest-based targeting inside of the ad set level of Ads Manager. And we are mostly going to focus on interest targeting. And most successful ad accounts that I see focus on interest targeting when they are wanting to reach cold audiences. So very, very important. And then guys, when it comes to intent-based audiences, again, retargeting, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have an entire module on this. But these are things like your customer file, your website traffic, app activity, offline activity, engagement on Facebook and Instagram, people who watched your videos. I just wanted to give you some more examples of those, but it's not something that you should be thinking about right now because we are going to have a whole module on retargeting and best practices for building your audiences when it comes to retargeting are obviously very different than cold traffic. So just to give you guys a quick run through of this audience section at the ad set level and what we're going to be focusing on today. So custom audiences, this is where your retargeting audiences live, essentially. So all of those intent-based audiences that I just showed you, Once those are created under the Audiences tab in Business Manager, it's really easy. You can find all of those custom audiences there, and custom audiences are essentially retargeting audiences. This is also the area where you would find lookalike audiences, which we already touched on a bit. So really, for this module, when we're talking about Facebook targeting to cold traffic, you're not going to be using this box very much unless you have an ad set that's utilizing lookalike audiences, which we'll talk about later. The next area is location, and I don't want you guys to overthink this. I want you all to target everyone who is in the location where you can sell your product or service. So for some of you guys, you're a local business and you can only sell your product or service within a certain radius of a city. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to talk about that later too. And that would dictate, obviously, your location. For me, I like to include the top countries where this particular company could sell their product or service. If you can only sell your product or service in one country, then you want to input that country here. If you can sell worldwide, I do recommend picking the top 4 or 5 countries where you are actively selling your product or service, or where you could sell your product or service, and input all of those here. So for me, I usually include, if I have a worldwide product or service, I usually include the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and sometimes I will include all of Europe. And you guys will see some more use cases on this later in this training, but don't overthink this section, guys. Enter the areas where you can actually sell your product or service. If you can sell worldwide, pick the top 4 or 5 countries so that you're not getting a bunch of junk traffic from countries who probably aren't gonna buy your product or service. Okay, age and gender, really important. And think back to what Russ and I were talking about when it comes to avatars. You really never know what someone is going to look like, especially if we're targeting them based off of their interests. So unless you have an avatar that just must be a particular age or must be a particular gender, I want you to leave the age and gender completely open, especially for these test campaigns, so that we can let the data tell us what our ideal age and gender might be moving forward. But even for scale campaigns, I generally leave age and gender open. So what are some examples where this wouldn't be the case? One is Boom. Boom's marketing message is for women over the age of 50. That's who they are speaking to directly. So in that case, I am selecting, 50 to 65 plus and women. If you are for some reason selling a product that's very, very specific to men, maybe it's about, their hormones or something like that, then that might be a use case where you just select men. Otherwise, if age and gender don't have much to do with the product or service that you're selling, please leave these open and let the data tell us how to make these decisions moving forward. Languages, I always leave languages open unless for some reason, I very much need to specify that a particular person speaks a language. So for example, let's say I wanted to take some of my ads that are in the English language out to Mexico, right? And I know that there are a lot of people living in Mexico that might not speak English. That might be a use case where I would type English into this box just to ensure that I'm not wasting my money on the Spanish speaker or the other speakers of other languages that don't speak English. Otherwise, guys, leave this language box open and free. 99% of the time, I do. So we already talked about this detailed targeting box. We're going to be using this mostly for interest-based targeting. And we'll go deeper into this. I do not recommend checking this box unless you are building a campaign that is for extreme scale. Otherwise, it's going to give you a lot of unqualified traffic. And then connections isn't something that most of us are going to be using. Do notice that you have an opportunity to exclude other interests from a certain interest group that you're targeting, don't do that, guys. There's absolutely no need to do that, and it's going to confuse the absolute crap out of Facebook. The only exclusions that you might ever want to use would be up here, where maybe we're targeting cold traffic and we want to exclude people who have purchased before because maybe this isn't a product that you can purchase again moving forward. Otherwise, please don't use exclusions, guys, because it really causes Facebook to struggle a bit when it comes to optimization. They have to sort of take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Think of it that way because of that exclusion. So even if you feel like there's overlap and you're panicking, please don't panic, y'all. Only use exclusions when you really have to, and those are usually excluding things like, your buyer's list or, something like that for a product that can't be sold to the same people again. So I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what everything means here and what I recommend using and what I don't. But today, we're going to focus on cold traffic targeting, right? That is what the rest of this session is about. We'll have an entire session on retargeting later in TMTP. So again, let's go back to this interest-based audience idea. We've got interest targeting and we have lookalike, and we are going to be focusing heavily on interest targeting. And I'm going to take you through a research process that will allow you to figure out your avatar's interests so that you can get in front of them on Facebook. So maybe, during Russ's training, you decided you've got one avatar that you really want to first focus on. Maybe it's moms. Let's start to think about that person and let's figure out what interests moms might be hanging out on Facebook so that we can get in front of them. Our goal with interest-based targeting, with cold traffic targeting, is to discover where this particular avatar that you're currently working on is hanging out on Facebook. And specifically, where are they hanging out? Because the more specific we can get, guys, the more we can dive into the psyche of this person, the more obscure and the more obscure and specific interests that we are going to be able to find that will allow us to target those interests that no one else is using. Therefore, it will be cheaper, we'll get more reach and better results. So when you guys are thinking about the interests that you want to use to reach specific avatars, I want you to think in a very, very specific way and really think about what Russ and I shared earlier in the training, the but no one else would trick. Right? So if we're trying to target golfers, we don't want to go with an interest of ESPN because ESPN would include so many people that don't actually play golf. We want to get very specific here. So this exercise that I'm about to show you guys, this 3-part exercise, should be done for each of your avatars. It doesn't have to be done over the next week. I just mean anytime you are building cold traffic campaigns, and of course you're going back to your avatars, market-centric business people, you guys probably have one avatar, product-centric folks, you guys have more than one avatar. For each of these avatars, this exercise is so important. So I'm going to give you a worksheet. This will also be available below in the module. It's bit.ly/uppercase TMTP5A. So bit.ly/TMTP5A. And this worksheet is going to aid in the first step of this process, which is research. So do not get overwhelmed about this sheet. This sheet is built to help you guys research and to research in order to come up with ideas of possible interests that you might want to see if they exist inside of Facebook. So the point of this sheet is to give you a bunch of different questions to ask yourself, to ask Google, to ask Amazon, to ask someone who is your ideal market. Think back to the research ideas that Russ was sharing earlier. The point here is for you to use these questions to probe your research process that will lead you to the best interests to target for your cold traffic campaigns. So the way that this works for me, I have this printed out on my desk at all times. And when I'm entering the research process, I've got this on my desk, and I also have a Google Doc open. And this one's particular to Boom. I'm going to go deeper into this here in a bit, but I always have a Google Doc open, and I've got this targeting worksheet on my desk, and I'm going through all of these questions, which I'm going to go through with you. And like I said, I'm either using Google, I'll show you that here in a minute. I'm either calling my mom or calling someone who is this avatar. And in this Google Doc, I'm starting to write down answers to these questions, right? I'm not even hopping into Facebook yet. I'm just writing down answers to these questions so that I can start to get a list of ideas of interest that I might be able to use. So you can see up here, we put the avatar name. We first put where you can sell your product or service. We already chatted about this, but I put, if local business, you can stop now. Really, any local business, unless you are targeting a city that's more than 3 to 5 million people, like New York City or LA, you really do not need to continue down doing this research because you aren't going to need to use any interest. Local businesses have it easy to where pretty much they can just target the area in which they're selling their product or service, because if we start to layer interests on, it just gets too small. The audience size gets too small. So here's a great example of this. Let's think back to my friend Laura's jujitsu gym. Remember this Evolution Academy where they are teaching jujitsu and where we are going to be running ads here over the next few weeks, offering the free 2-week trial and the free uniform. Now, this academy is in Beacon, New York, which is a fairly small town. We kept this within 17 kilometers, and we are not targeting any custom audiences. We're not targeting any interests. I did uncheck this box as I recommend to you guys, and this gives us a nice audience size of 210,000 people. Again, you got to work with what you got. If you're a hair salon in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, and you only have 10,000 people within a 5-mile radius, that's what you got, and that's what you're going to roll forward with when it comes to cold traffic targeting. But for Beacon, New York, this was 210,000 people. I'm really happy with that. And I'll show you guys the reason that I don't overlay interests. Let's say, just back to Snoop Dogg. Like, for some reason, let's imagine we're targeting people who like rap. If we overlaid Snoop Dogg onto this local area, we would quickly be down to only 13,000 people, right? So you guys see why we're not overlaying interest. We're just going with this audience size, even though we know that, a lot of people living in Beacon probably aren't a parent of a child, who might want to do jujitsu, who is really our avatar. We know we're going to reach a bunch of people who aren't interested, but because we know that Facebook works a bit better with larger audience sizes, I am willing to air quotes, waste money on unqualified people because I want my ads to run, right? I want to get reach. I want to get results. So it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's so important for local businesses. So for most of you local businesses, you guys can stop after this top question, which saves you a lot of time. For anybody else, we need to answer as many of these questions that pertain to our specific avatar that we're focusing on right now as possible. Not all of these questions are going to make sense for you or this particular avatar, you're not going to find answers for all of these questions. That's okay. These are just here to get your brain rolling and to get ideas flowing on possible interests that we can target. So I'm going to walk you through this worksheet, and it's split into 3 different categories. And guys, I've been building this worksheet for 8 years now. And like I said, targeting is probably, other than Copy Creative and Offer, absolutely my secret sauce. And this might seem silly, but if you are willing to do this work, it's going to set you apart. So the first is product and service consumption. Where else or from whom else in your market is this particular avatar consuming product or services from? Because if they're already buying in this market, then they are definitely qualified to buy your product or service, right? They are probably problem aware, and they are definitely an avid part of the market. So the questions I ask myself: what tools does your avatar use in your market? These could be physical tools, these could be online tools. If we're trying to reach social media managers, I would be writing down tools like Buffer and Hootsuite and all the different online tools that a social media manager might use. If I'm trying to target people who like golf, then tools mean, okay, there are golf clubs and there are golf bags, right? Those are the tools that golfers use. There are golf tees, and I'm just starting to write all of these down, right? And then I'm going deeper. What brands make these tools? And this could be a Google search. Top golf bag brands, right? Top brands for yogis. What online stores do they shop in? What in-person stores do they shop in? Who are your competitors? What apps are they using? Are there any apps for golfers that you might be able to target? Are there any apps for yogis that you might be able to target? Moms? There might not be, but it's a great Google search to do. What software are they using? What else are they buying in your market? What brand makes those products and services? And again, we're not going to have answers for each of these, but guys, if you spend the time on Google, on the phone, listing out as many answers to these questions as you can, it's going to set you up for success for years to come. Sometimes I spend 5 to 10 hours on this worksheet, y'all. Like this, you should definitely commit to spending at least 2 hours on this worksheet for each of your avatars, and it will pay off in a huge, huge way for you. So the next is communication and congregation. So where, if there is anywhere, does your market come together to talk about being that person, right? That avatar. So what in-person events does your avatar attend? This could be a golf tournament. This could be a marketing conference. This could be a dental convention if we're looking to target dentists. What online events does your avatar attend? What online forums, message boards, Facebook groups are your avatar using to talk about being that avatar, right? Back to the dentist example. There are tons of forums and message boards and Facebook groups that dentists use to congregate together. Write those down. They might be possible interests. What associations are they a part of? You know, dental associations. I'm pretty sure there are tons of interests around dental associations. If we're, hell yeah, look at that. If we're trying to reach dentists, this is a darn good way to do it. And not every market is going to call a congregation, a group, an association. It might be called a club, or it might be an event. Like, what does your market call places where they get together if they do that? What clubs are they a part of? And then think about, like, what buzzwords or keywords does your avatar use? Or what can you think of? Like in the Christian market, there are lots of terms like, Psalms and Bible and Jesus and gospel, right? There are lots of words that when I got to this section, I just started writing down because I knew that they pertained to Christianity, even if they didn't fit into these other sections. The next part is content consumption. So, is your avatar consuming content about your market topic? Most of your avatars are. Moms are constantly consuming information at all stages of their children's life to try to be the best mother possible, to try to give their kids the best life possible. Same thing with golf, same thing with all of the other examples that I've been using. So this really comes down to what blogs do they read? So I'm Googling top blogs for golfers, right? Top blogs for Christians, top books for Christians. What magazines do they read? What TV shows do they watch that pertain to being that avatar, if at all possible, right? Like, I don't want you to say, okay, I'm targeting moms and they watch Friends. Well, guys, a lot of other people who aren't moms also watch Friends. So as you are writing these down, please use the "but no one else would" trick. What movies do they watch that pertain to that particular avatar? What Facebook pages do they follow for entertainment or education? What influencers, educators, entertainers, celebrities, influential people are they following in your market that talk about being that particular avatar, right? Who else has your market's attention? So this worksheet is so essential, guys, and I recommend you printing it out, opening a Google Doc, and as you go through your avatars, one by one, use this worksheet, use your own brain if you are the avatar, use Google, use Amazon, use forums, use your telephone if you have the opportunity to call someone who is this avatar, and write down as many answers to these questions as possible, but always keep in mind the "but no one else would" trick. I don't want you to end up with broad interests that are reaching people who aren't your market. So only write down answers that you feel actually pertain to that particular avatar. Again, this is going to be a few-hour process, and I can't think of a better way for you to use those few hours. Okay. Now the next step of this is what I call matching. So you have this list, and maybe it's on a notepad, maybe it's in a Google Doc, of all of these answers, right? All of the answers to these questions. Well, just because you wrote them down doesn't mean, unfortunately, that they're going to appear as an interest in Facebook. I find that about usually half of what I write down ends up actually matching inside of the detailed targeting box. So this matching process is about taking essentially all of these ideas that you have and seeing which of them are actually an interest inside of Facebook and how big that interest is. So this is an example. This is Boom's Facebook targeting research. So I had already done the research actually on a piece of paper. And then for Boom, this is what it looked like after I had done my matching, right? We're trying to reach women over the age of 50. You can see here's what I did in 2019. Here's what I did in 2020. So we've got here brands that women over the age of 50 wear, right? Silver Sneakers is a sneaker brand for older women. Dusty Old Things is about antiques. We've got AARP because if you are in this age range, you are probably in the retirement phase. We've got different models and actresses and authority figures that speak to women over the age of 50. We're talking about being a grandma. Anyways, the way that this came about is that I had, double this amount on my notebook paper. And then I just hopped into the detailed targeting box and I said, okay, my mom told me that Coldwater Creek is a brand she wears and would be, a good interest to target to reach women over 50. Let's see if it exists. And wow, it does as an interest. And it's 671,000 people large, right? You can see that it's actually grown since I did this last year, right? So any of the interests that don't appear inside of detailed targeting, that's okay. You can keep it on your research list because you never know. You might go back in a year and it actually does appear. Facebook is constantly adding and removing interests. And if it does match up, awesome, get excited. Let's put that onto the list. Let's put the number and let's consider this matched, right? This is an interest that we actually exists inside of Facebook. We know how large it is, and we are going to maybe use this interest moving forward. So this matching phase, guys, is all about taking that research list that you have and just seeing what appears and what doesn't appear inside of the detailed targeting box, which is really fun. And you'll probably go down some rabbit holes here, right? So like, for example, AARP was a rabbit hole because I had written AARP down, right? Of course. And when I typed it in, I saw it here, which made me excited, but I also saw all of these other interests that I could use. So, I didn't think off the top of my head, AARP member advantages, right? That wasn't on my initial research list, but it was something that I found as I started down my matching experience. So when you're in this matching phase, you might find interests, and you should find interests that you can target as you start to type different things in that weren't initially on your research list. And that is totally, totally okay. If you're getting stuck in this research and matching phase, guys, one of the best things that you can do is use this tool that Facebook has called Audience Insights. And Audience Insights essentially allows you to enter the location you're targeting, age, gender, and then input an interest or a list of interests in here. So let's use AARP, right? You can go over to page likes, and Facebook is going to tell you, based off of their data, based off of everything they know, what other pages are most like the one that you just input. So this is a wonderful way to do research, and it's a wonderful way to continue to find interest after you're already in the matching phase. So I put in AARP, and you can see that here they categorize a bunch of them, which is a great way to look through this. Again, we're wanting to make sure that we're only picking the ones that we feel very much apply to our avatar. And as we scroll down, you can see them ranked by relevance. So silver sneakers, which was already an interest that we found, which is amazing, right? This is workout and shoes for older people. Right? That is the page that is most like AARP. And then you can scroll through here and maybe get ideas. This one isn't so strong, but maybe get ideas for other interests that you can target. This one was pretty broad, so that's why we're getting back things like, political stuff. So let's put in something a little bit more specific here, like silver sneakers. So silver sneakers, okay, now we got Medicare, AARP, garden lovers, which could be a whole rabbit hole that you might be able to go down for women over the age of 50. Gray Feathers is a page for women over the age of 50. Grandma's Club, The Good Old Days, Sassy Senior Lady. Again, not all of these are going to match up when you go to the detailed targeting box, but this is an awesome way to continue to do research, especially when you are in this matching phase. So matching, again, is all about taking that research list and seeing what matches up in Facebook. Okay, so once you have a list of interests, and again, you can go as deep or wide as you want. I would try to have at least 20 interests for your avatar if possible. Definitely go deeper if you can, like you will see that I do, right? But I would try to have at least 20 interests that you have matched up. And then when you're actually going to set up your campaign, which it's not time to do yet in TMTP, that's week 7. But a lot of you guys are thinking, okay, Molly, so once you've got all these interests, how does this translate into the actual ad sets? Like, do you put them together? How does that work? And so this third step is about actually building these ad sets and using these interests in a campaign. And everything goes back to potential audience size, which I shared with you guys last Thursday. Again, if you are not able to reach these audience sizes because you are restricted to a geolocation, that is okay. Do not panic. Do not panic. But here are some best practices, right? If you're testing my guidelines, and if you can sell in multiple countries, I'm trying to hit a potential audience size within each of my ad sets of about 500,000 to 3 million. If I'm scaling, that's going to be a little bit bigger, more like 1 to 30 million plus. So when I'm building these ad sets, it's more about potential audience size than trying to test a bunch of different interests against one another. That's a super outdated strategy. So what I am doing is I am building, so let's say we've got, let's go back here to Ads Manager, to the ad set level, and let's say that we are building this targeting for Boom. So we're gonna get here to the ad set level again. The way that I would go about this is, let's say this is a testing campaign. I've got my list open here for Boom. We're doing United States, United Kingdom, and Canada right now. I've got my list open. So let's start at the top here. So I would just start. This is ad set 1, Coldwater Creek. All right, Christopher and Banks. So I'm keeping an eye on this potential reach over here, guys, right? I want this to be 500,000 to 3 million. So I'm actually gonna keep going with this. J. Jill. Awesome. Where does that put us? All right, we're at 1.7 million. So this is within the range. I feel comfortable with this. And so I'm actually going to stop with this ad set. So the goal is to input as many interests as you need into the ad set until you hit the range that you're looking for. Sometimes you might have 1 interest. Sometimes that might take 15 interests. It's okay either way. It's not about how many interests are within the particular ad set. It's about hitting that potential reach. So once I get to the potential reach I'm looking for, then I would be okay with this ad set, and I'll show you guys how to build this in Module 7, and I would move on to building the next ad set, right? So I would duplicate this ad set, I would go in, I would remove those interests, and I would continue where I left off on the list, right? And in a new ad set, we would start by doing exactly what we just did. So fab over 50, awesome, soft surroundings, great. We're at 1 million, so let's put in Chico's. This will probably, oh, no, that's people who work at Chico's, so we're not gonna select that one. I need the actual interest, clothing retailer. So this is a pretty big one. So this should put 3.9 people, or 3.9 million people. So it's a little bit more than 3 million, but it's still good. This will work just fine. This is where I would say, okay, now ad set 2 is done, right? And duplicate and move to the next ad set. So you guys can see how quickly you can get to over 10 ad sets if you have a pretty big market, if that avatar is a pretty big market. And the creation of the ad sets is all around the potential audience size. It's not around how many interests you are actually using. So that is how we turn that matching list into actual campaigns. And the best thing I can do moving forward here in this training for you guys is just show you a bunch of examples, because I think that's the best way to actually see this in action. So this is a scaling campaign that Boom is currently running. It's doing really, really well. This is the one I've been showing you guys a few times. We've got 1.18 million spent, 2.25 return, which is crazy. A big reason this is working is because of the ad copy, the creative, which we'll talk about in the coming weeks. Obviously, the offer too, the 5 makeup tips, is very powerful. But a big reason that this is working is because of this fancy Google Doc that I created. The targeting here is dead on, and it's allowing them super scale. So again, we're optimizing for purchases here. We've got a great cost per acquisition, and I just want to show you how these ad sets look and how the targeting looks. So this first one, we've got 4 million people, which is great for scaling. You can see that Boris saved these as saved audiences. You can Google Facebook saved audiences and learn more. It's an easy way to organize this. I don't use them a ton, but Boris does. But same concept here, right? So we've got a bunch of different interests. Grease film, Donna Summer, John Travolta, Pretty Woman, Diane Keaton, Julie Andrews, Lane Bryant. So we've got actors and actresses that people of this age range would be familiar with, a film that they would be familiar with. We've got Lane Bryant, a clothing brand they might be familiar with, and we've lumped them together to get to this 4 million point. The next one, JFK, that's 8.8 million. Again, this is at pretty extreme scale here, so these interests are a bit broader than I would use if I was testing. But still pretty dead on for this particular avatar. The Sound of Music, classics, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, 4 million total. This is 6.5 million. Old time music, Don Henley, Elvis Presley, or oldies, right? This is a great way to use lookalikes if you want to use lookalikes, guys. We call this a super lookalike ad set. You notice that only one of our ad sets actually includes lookalikes. And what we're doing is just layering together a few very powerful lookalikes. So a lookalike of buyers in the last 90 days, buyers in the last year, right? All-time buyers. So we've got 6 million people here just from this super lookalike. And you can see this is an example of where we have excluded buyers. But if you want to use lookalikes, this is a good way to do it. And it ensures that your audience sizes are a bit larger, especially if you're going for scale. Retirement community, retirement home, retirement living TV, retirement age, right? At 10 million. And then last but not least, a lot of the ones that I just chatted with you guys about: Silver Sneakers, Chico's, QVC, Fab Over 50, J. Jill, at 8.5 million people. So just because of this interest research, guys, right? Because we put the time into this, Boom has been able to make over $2 million on this campaign because we know who our avatar is. We took the time to do the research, and Boris did a great job of lumping those interests together to create nice audience sizes for this campaign that he's building. Okay, I want to show you some other examples, and this is a document that I've used for different campaigns that I've built, but I just want to show you just another example of what a list could look like for particular avatars when you're getting really specific. So you can see this first section is, let's imagine we're targeting a yoga avatar. Look how deep you can go here. I don't even know what a lot of this means, but I was able to find it through research and audience insights. Different types of yoga, right? The scientific keys, famous yogis, different types of yoga again. Here's a place where this audience comes together, right? Here's a famous yogi. Here is a blog, My Yoga Online. Here's a clothing brand. More different types of yoga. Here's another authority figure. Here's another type of yoga. Here's a random interest that I found from just typing inside that box. Here's another brand that's selling to this audience. Yogi Tea, another blog, right? This is such a good example of not just going in and typing yoga. I actually took the time to find the deep and specific interests that are going to allow us to reach people who actually are practicing yoga, who actually do yoga, and therefore who are probably most likely to buy the yoga mat or the yoga clothes or the yoga training or whatever it is that I am selling. So here's another audience. I do a lot of work with Gabby Bernstein, who is a spiritual teacher, and this audience, this avatar, this spiritual avatar is very interesting to me. So let's say that we're wanting to reach someone that we know is in this more new age spiritual avatar looking for personal development. Look at how deep you can go. Nick Ortner, Christiane Northrup, those are both authority figures. Mind Valley's a company. I think this is a blog. Hippie Peace Freaks, don't even know what that is, but it showed up in Audience Insights. This is a online video platform, I think. This is just a random buzzword, 1111 Awakening Code. This is a book, right? These are all books. Abraham Hicks is someone that you could follow. This was a buzzword, person. I mean, just look at the specificity here that we were able to get because we did the research. And we figured out exactly where these people are hanging out. We're not just typing in spirituality or meditation. I mean, look how deep you can go, guys, in just a few hours. And feel free, if any of these are your market, use some of these. I don't mind. We can all win. But I mean, just look at the specificity here, y'all. This is what you are absolutely going for. Look how many we were able to find in a pretty small market. And then I'm not going to keep going with these, but I just wanted to show you an example. Like, say your yogi is an avatar, or say, someone that's into new age spirituality is an avatar. This is an example, again, of how deep you can go there. Okay, so now let's chat about ODG. So the apparel brand that I work with that we're using as an over-the-shoulder case study throughout this training. And we are selling apparel to Christians. So this is the campaign that David set up, the first campaign that he set up as a TMTP student for the free plus shipping sticker option. You can see it did really well, over 5,000 purchases, $5 a purchase, which is super cheap. We had a positive return on ad spend, and he did a wonderful job in this test campaign with his targeting. So we're wanting to reach Christians, and let's see what he's got here. All right, so he's got a bunch of pastors. I don't know who a lot of these people are, but he did the research to find a bunch of pastors that he could target. Because if you're following a pastor, you are probably in some way a Christian. The Passion of the Christ, I'm pretty sure, is a movie. Toby Mac, I think, is a Christian band. BibleStudyTools.com is a tool. Bible Prophecy, Calvinism. Kirk Franklin, BibleGetaway.com. He's targeting people with the job title Bible teacher. Some really great interest to reach these people. I don't even know who this guy is, but Southern Baptist Convention. It looks like here, this is more schools. So of course, anyone who is probably interested in a theology school would be Christian, so different types of schools. So look at how David got into the psyche of this person, you guys. International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Kirk Cameron, who I think is a musician, a seminary or Young Life. Perry Noble, these are more pastors. Louis, Benny, Christianity Today, Trinity Broadcasting Network. Joel Osteen is probably someone that a lot of us know. These are different Christian music bands. So you can see that he categorized them. And a big reason he was able to do that is because he has a really large market. Not all of us are able to categorize in this way, and you don't need to, right? Like you saw inside of Boom, we had clothing brands and authority figures and movies and books and all that shit lumped together, right? But if you want to categorize them in this way and you can still do that and maintain the audience sizes you're looking for, then go ahead. No problem there. And then you can see down here, he's got some more people. You guys get the point. Let's look at the next example. So this next example is Mr. Russ Hinneberry from The Click. And Russ, over the last week, has been working a lot on his ads, and he's getting really, really good results. So he launched this 6 days ago using the TMTP methodology that I'm teaching you guys over the course of these 4 months. His goal is a $2 lead, so he's at 565 leads at $1.43 a piece. Russie is pumped, and this is just a test campaign. So obviously with The Click, this newsletter, he's trying to reach people who are in some way interested in digital marketing or in digital business. You can see he's using different types of ads and different ad copy variations, which we'll talk more about next week. But let's focus on his targeting right now. So Russ is targeting US, Canada, UK, Australia. And let's look through. So, Buffer, we talked about Buffer. That's a tool that people use in digital marketing. Canva, MailChimp, Marty Smith's an authority figure, Marketo, Moz, Seth Godin. So you can see that Russ went larger here than I recommend with test campaigns, but no problem. He knows his audience. It's working really well. Seth Godin. So this is a mix of software and different authority figures in the market. Ad Exchanger, Digiday. So I think this is a blog. I think this is a tool. This is a tool. I think this is a blog. Tim Ferriss is obviously a person. 2.8 million people here. This specificity is what is allowing him to absolutely crush this. WooCommerce is a tool, blog, tool. I think blog. And then Business Insider, Fast Company. So you also see that Russ used this and must also match. So you can sometimes narrow further if you have something like digital marketing, like a really large interest that you want to use, but you know that it's not specific enough or it's too large to use on its own. So this is a great example of this. Russ said, okay, you must be interested in Business Insider and Fast Company, right? So you're kind of a business person, but you also must be interested in digital marketing. And this allowed him to still use this interest, but to get this nice little sweet spot here, which is again a little larger than I recommend for testing, but it's okay. It's working really well. Like this is such a simple test campaign, guys, but because Russ did his homework, he went deep on the targeting, he followed my instructions on copy and creative, which are the next 2 weeks of class. This is rocking and rolling just 6 weeks in, and there's a lot of room for scale and so much we can do moving forward here with The Click. Okay, the next example that I want to show you guys is from Panda Planner, which is a client that I used to have. And I just want to show you, again, some examples of how important targeting is. So you guys will learn this in week 7, but I recommend launching. You really don't want to put multiple avatars in the same campaign any longer because it very much confuses Facebook. Back in a little bit less than 2 years ago when I ran this particular campaign, it was more okay to put multiple avatars in the same campaign. But I just want to throw out a caveat that now I would have split these out. But I wanted to show this to you guys because it shows you how important this whole avatar thing is. So let's look at cost per result, cost per acquisition of customer here. Excuse me. So with Panda Planner, again, this was a product-centric market, which I talked about earlier in this training. And so I wanted to test entrepreneurs, moms, dads, and people dealing with stress. And let's look at, what if I wouldn't have tested this? What if I would have just assumed it was entrepreneurs, right? I would have never gotten this account to work in the first place. So look, based off of avatars here, it's crazy to see the difference not only in volume of purchases, but also in cost per result. And this shows you why it's so important to do this testing, because it could be the difference in a $65 CPA or a $21 CPA. So let's first look this sort of spiritual, happy. So this avatar is people who are dealing with stress and anxiety, and that might be turning to spirituality or self-help for guidance. So by the way, this campaign ran before I ever worked on this project. So just a little FYI there. But look here, with this spiritual audience, we're targeting the US, age open, gender open, Brene Brown, Gabby Bernstein, which are both, spiritual leaders, teachers. These audience sizes are much, much larger than they were when I ran this a few years ago. Same thing here, because these people have grown a lot. So the audience sizes were much smaller a few years ago, but it's a great example. These are more authority leaders in spirituality. You can see that I also, for that avatar, took the opposite approach of anxiety and depression, high anxiety, stress-free living, stress management. But that avatar worked the best for moms, right? Let's look at what worked for moms. I didn't just go in and select parents and moms in the browse behavior area. I did my work. I targeted working mothers, mother's pride. I found other interests: proud single mother, working mother magazine, working mom, being a mom, being a soccer mom, love being a mom. Again, guys, I found all of these through research. Being mommy, mommy needs vodka is for some reason an interest. Mommy's bliss, mommy's little sunshine, mommy page, prego, and mommy chat. Here's another one for the spiritual markets. This was Elephant Journal, which is a resource for this market. Mindful thinking, mindful.org, mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness center. Let's look at dads here, father and son, parent. I didn't do so hot on this one. This is what not to do, and it's probably why it didn't work. I didn't get specific enough, but how to be a dad, life of a dad. That's awesome. Entrepreneurs. So I targeted Female Entrepreneur Association. I also targeted Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, Brunson, Dice to try to reach entrepreneurs. I also targeted different homeschooling interests in an effort to reach moms. And then for entrepreneurs, I targeted Tim Ferriss, like you see Russ doing. And then I did a Must Like Entrepreneur magazine and Success magazine. But I wanted to show you this to first show you just how important this whole avatar targeting thing is, because damn, look at the difference in results just because I was able to, identify different avatars and run that test. And then secondly, the ability to really dive in and find interests that are specific to where these people are hanging out. I'm not just going in and typing random broad interests and wondering why it's not working. Okay, 2 more examples I want to show you guys because I think more examples are better. This is for a client that offers a keto product. And the first step of this funnel is lead gen. So you can see this worked really well, a little bit over 36,000 leads, $1.51 a piece. Very, very happy with this. Looking to target people that might be interested in the keto diet, might be interested in a healthier life. US, Canada, UK, Australia. We've got cyclic keto diet, keto adapted, keto diet app, ketone, ketone bodies, ketosis. Then we've got Atkins diet. We've got different authority figures in this health space. We're targeting paleo, which is another type of diet, everyday paleo. Healthy low carb living, Julian Bakery, low carb Zen, low carbing amongst friends, low carb so simple, low carb diet, me eat paleo, our paleo life, paleo diet recipes, paleo grubs, paleo leap, paleo magazine, paleo on the go. This was for scale, so these are really large audience sizes. Paleoholic, Paleolithic diet. I mean, guys, look what you're able to do if you dive in. I even found Dr. Atkins. Stupid easy paleo, sugar-free kids, sugar substitute, paleo diet, paleo mom. I knew all of these would relate to people who are at least interested in their diet. 100 days of real food, clean eating, natural foods, clean eating magazine, clean eating online, Crock-Pot, so many, Food Babe, Hungry Girl, Here's a Doctor, Skinny Taste, Eat Clean Diet, Thrive Market, Wellness Mama, Whole Food. And then weight loss zone, weight loss of Atlanta, drop away weight loss, eat to live, extreme weight loss, right? And then a bunch more that are more about weight loss and health and fitness. But because I was willing to do this research, again, y'all, we were able to absolutely crush it on this one. And our competition was so low, right? It was just so easy to get cheap results because most people aren't using those same interests. Okay, y'all, last but not least, this is a wine example. And this particular campaign was optimizing for leads. This is a bit more expensive of a market, so we're very happy with how this turned out. So, the avatar here is wine enthusiasts, people that love wine. So, of course, I started with different types of wine, Cabernet, different wineries, Malbec, more wineries, different types of wine, right? Winery Dogs, another winery. Again, all of these came through research. Wine Festival, Food and Wine Magazine, Wine Show, another magazine, Wine Spectator is a magazine. More vineyards, right? Fermentation and winemaking was something random I found in Audience Insights. Winemaker, winemaking. Bordeaux wine, other wines, wine, different types of champagne. You could see I went down that rabbit hole here. And I was able to find even more vineyards. And then, just more wine interest, guys. I mean, this is such a market-centric offer. I needed to, in any way possible, find interest that's going to get me in front of people who are really serious and very much love wine, which is what all of this is about. And these interests are endless, y'all. They are endless. There's so many that you can find if you take the time to do this. So I hope you enjoyed this. This has been super fun. And I've got some homework for you. So first is pick one avatar. If you're a market-centric business, that's probably the only avatar you're ever going to need. If you're a product-centric business, identify the one avatar that you want to focus on first. Make sure that you go through the beginning of this training with Russ and I and complete that avatar sheet for that avatar, because you've got to thoroughly understand this person before you try to engage with them. And filling that avatar sheet is going to help do a lot of the work and get you in a good place for when you get to the interest research process. So complete the avatar persona sheet and then also complete the Facebook targeting research and matching for one of your avatars. So, maybe by the end of your homework, you might have screenshots of, 5 to 10 different ad sets that you have organized very similar to this. And feel free to even screenshot them and put them into the Facebook group and let me know, hey, Molly, here's the avatar I'm going after. Do you think that these audiences are going to work? Do you think they're specific enough? Have I categorized them right? Whatever questions you have, a great use of time here in TMTP when, this doesn't have to be in the next week. This can be any time over our 4 months together, would be to complete this avatar, complete the targeting research, and let John and I check out the targeting that you've selected. That's where we've helped a lot of students in the past, saying that's too broad, right? I would go down this direction. I would go down this rabbit hole. So when you have time, please complete this homework, guys. This is the next step in the journey. The first step is to have a badass offer, right? We know what we are asking them to do. We're either sending them to a product page, doing the butter chicken, we're sending them to a webinar, a lead magnet, whatever you selected, we know our front end offer. The second step is figuring out the avatar and the targeting. We've got the offer built. Who are we positioning this offer to, and how are we targeting them on Facebook? That is the second step of this process. Please don't get ahead in this class. We're going to move on to copy, creative. We're going to talk more about structuring campaigns, launching campaigns, retargeting, optimization, scaling. All of that tactical stuff is coming, guys. But if you do not nail the targeting, this will not work. This is more important than anything else that I can think of other than your offer when it comes to succeeding, especially via cold traffic with Facebook ads. So as you all can tell, I get pumped up about this. I love this. This is my favorite part of the process, and I love every part of the process. If you have any questions, as always, let us know in the Facebook group. I hope you enjoyed this, and I just hope you guys know how important this is, right? This might seem like very basic marketing, and maybe it is, but it's what's important. It's what works. And being able to understand who you are speaking to, understand as much about that person as possible, and then being able to do your research and finding interests that your competitors are not using, that is what is going to allow you to succeed on this platform and on other traffic platforms too. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. Russ, thank you, buddy, for being a part of this, spending your time with us. If you have questions for Russ, feel free to tag him in the group. If you have questions for me, let me know. I'll get to it as soon as possible. I appreciate you guys. I hope you're having an awesome week. And just a quick reminder that Tuesday's Q&A call is going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. New York time. It's going to be 2 hours earlier than normal. So if I don't see you in the group until then, I'll see you all Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here, and talk to you soon.